I was looking at this corn chip the other day when I was suddenly overcome with this strong urge to set it ablaze with all my ex-loved ones trapped inside to spend their final waking moments fighting the blistering heat of the flame. Oh, wait a second. I'm just thinking about my favourite romantic comedy, Midsommar. Welcome to Midnight Hobbies, and today I'll be trying to make the Fire Temple. I thought about starting this build with a quip, but instead opted to be natural. I find cardboard packaging to be a great base for miniature builds as it's easily accessible and even easier to cut. So after flattening the box and removing the sides, I began tracing out 3 triangles to act as the walls. As per my research, I found the temple is actually a triangular based pyramid opposed to the commonly thought square based. So that's fun. The front equilateral needed to stand flat to the front, so once I had my side panels, I gave them an angled dissection to hold it so. I did end up having to go back and trim more off as I went, but eventually I had 3 perfect spires. I then traced out where the door and window will go to assure my proportions were okay, and then added its signature top. Wait a second, that's not right. After removing the door and punching out the window, I stuck the 3 pieces together with masking tape to see if it could stand on its own 3 feet. Perfection. Happy with how it stood, I glued the sides together. Now, this fire needs some kindling. I first gave the doorway its trim by cutting crafting sticks at an angle that looks like I'm slicing my finger. Yeah, that's better. And played around with the angled cut where the 2 pieces of trim meet so that I got a clean finish. And once that was glued, I added the slight overhang as well. Then came the arduous task of slicing every crafting stick in half and then eyeing the measurements as I built up the side panels. The slice in half is to help with the model's scale, and even though it does cause some of the wood to look a little bit wonky in the final piece, we'll just say it's character. I also decided against texturing the wood with a razor as the temple appears clean in the movie, as well as my IKEA instructions weren't too clear as to whether I should, so I kept them clean.
So sharp you won't feel a thing. Ow!
I then made the window its frame from offcuts from the wall panels, and then it was on to finishing the rest of the walls. And it doesn't look too bad. Those edges are horrible, but we can cover them up with more pieces of crafting stick as trim to hide the happy accident of not measuring my cuts, which I will fix by once again not measuring my cuts and just eyeballing it with a pencil. Worked out alright though. I stuck the trim in place with hot glue, added the overhang, and then continued to hide the rest of those horrible seams. Now to make the door, I grabbed the door piece I'd cut out earlier and sliced it in half to make it a door. I then folded them into an open position so that you'd be able to look inside the temple, and dressed them up as barn doors with some offcuts of crafting sticks. I stuck them into the doorway and we have a temple. I'll glue the doors completely open after I've done the paint job, but it's looking like it's ready for priming. Oh yeah, last but not least, it needs the rune-like symbol up the top. I sketched the symbol on a piece of cardboard packaging and then sliced it out with a hobby knife. And then with a little touch of glue, I stuck it onto the temple. And now for everyone's favourite crafting bowl. I mixed together some Mod Podge and black acrylic paint and then lathered it onto the building to act as a primer. Also, let me know in the comments if you have a good name suggestion for this bowl of nightmares, or even any builds you'd like to see in future videos. It did occur to me I could leave the model at this state and just claim it to be the final form of the temple, but I'll keep going. I began painting it with a medium yellow and then realised it would have been smarter to prime with white as the first layer made the temple look sick, but a couple more layers later it was finally looking like that Bill Cipher yellow I was looking for. I gave the doors some aqua and then stuck them open with a little dab of glue. It's times like these I wonder why I don't use hot glue instead of having to hold it in place for what feels like an eternity with PVA. But it's done now. I'm glad I did prime it with black since you can still see it in the recesses, which really helps the yellow pop, so I guess that accident was totally on purpose. Now on to dry brushing. I mixed the yellow with some white and using a rough paintbrush tickled the edges of the wood to help gain some character. I wanted it to look as if the paint had faded a little from that Swedish sun, so went over with some plain white as well, which I also used on the doors. And now all it needs is a base. Using a large piece of foam insulation, I marked out where the temple would stand and cut around it. My homeware store used to stock the good old pink XPS, but I've swapped it out for this, which is much more crumbly and filled with air pockets, which is a tad irritating, but we're going to do our best today. I thought a circle base would complement a triangle best, so with a piece of card I had lying around, I sketched it out before cutting it with a nifty yet underused finger blade. Ugh, look at all those crumbs. I then went back around the edge of the base with the finger blade to rough it up some more. I did also wear a respiratory mask working with this foam due to its crumbly nature. If any of my crafting materials are going to bring me to my demise, I'm not going to let it be this cheap foam. I pressed a tea light into the foam and cut away at the indent until I had a snug fit for it to sit in. Then mixing together some Mod Podge, brown paint and water, I mixed together a base paste. And for extra seasoning, you can even add a little pinch of real life dirt. I then drowned the base in icing and pressed the temple into where it would stay so that the paste would remember its shape. My paste wasn't thick enough for it to make a proper indent, but I still stippled the surface with a brush to remove brush strokes and paved a path that would have developed from all the people coming in and out of the temple. Even after this forbidden cookie had set, the temple markings could still be seen, but it will end up being covered, so I didn't worry about it. I gave the bottom a protective layer of black Mod Podge and then painted the top a darker brown as I thought the base colour was too light. I did, however, end up dry brushing it all with the same sienna I had used for the base paint, so everyone gets seen. And now for the step I was most excited for. This is my first time using the static grass applicator, as you will quickly see, but starting with some woodland scenic 2mm medium grass, I laid down some glue and sprinkled this green heaven all over my base. I used a couple of bridges for the static, as well as occasionally poured it on without the applicator even being powered, but found simply using the clip got the best result. The 2mm ended up being too short for my liking, so once it had half dried, I went back in with the 4mm. I shook off any excess onto a piece of paper that I could filter back into the bags, and then went round the edges of the base with a grey dry brush. I then spruced up the tea light with some hot glue to give it some jagged flames, but it's not really a fire without a bear to roast, is it? Perfect. I printed out a little Christian in his best Winnie the Pooh cosplay and stuck it onto a piece of black paper for strength. And I'm just saying, but if it was Nicolas Cage in that bear suit, the movie would have ended much differently.
What's wrong, sister?
Then with a small piece of foam board, I carved out a little straw throne that I then painted and perched him on top. And with him stuck in place, it's time for the glamour shots. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm excited to keep building this channel with you all, so another thank you for everyone's support during these early days. Take care everyone, and I hope to see you at the next video.